What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're doing another news video because I believe we got what is the last card for the Selection 10 set in the OCG. Now this, we kind of knew this because we had this box art, and if you see right here in the top, you had what looked like a vampire card, and so we were like, oh, we haven't gotten that card revealed yet, and lo and behold, the last card, well, I believe is the last card, is exactly that vampire card, which is very, very cool. So, this is Draculea Vampire, and, yeah, it's a level 8 Dark Zombie monster with 2800 attack, 2100 defense, and you can only use this card's first, second, and third effects once per turn each, so a lot of effects on this guy. His first effect reads, if this card is normal summoned, you can target up to 2 monsters in your opponent's graveyard, special summon them to your field in defense position, but their effects are negated. Okay. We'll get to that in a little bit. When a monster effect activates and a monster with the same name as that monster is in either graveyard, quick effect, you can negate that activation. Okay. As a third effect, if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you contribute 2 monsters, any 2 monsters, special summon this card from the grave. Alright, so a lot going on here, okay? 3 whole effects. I mean, this is 2020 boss monster at its finest. Although not at its finest. I think it's an okay boss monster, but I don't think it's overly great, right? I think the first effect, it requires it to be normal summoned. Well, I don't know if you know this, but the deck actually has multiple ways to just like summon him and just summon him out of the deck. But unfortunately, you can't. Well, I guess you could, but you wouldn't get this effect, so just keep that in mind. You can still summon him, you're just not going to get his effect to take 2 of your opponent's monsters from their grave. There are ways, I believe there's one card in the archetype that allows you to normal summon a high level vampire without tributing, so you could just make him your normal summon, which isn't the end of the world. And I believe there's a card that gives you an additional normal summon in the archetype, so you have ways to get it out. Not saying that you don't have ways to get it out, but they're not the best ways in the world, you know what I mean? And the second effect, when a monster effect activates and a monster has the same name in either graveyard, you can negate the activation. I'm curious what that means, because like, how does this interact with something like hand traps, right? Like, if your opponent goes Ash discard for cost, right? They're activating a monster effect, and Ash is now in the graveyard. Can you just negate Ash, negate Veiler, negate Crow, negate Ogre? Anything that ends up in grave when they're sent, can this just negate because they're then in the grave as cost? I'm really, really curious about that. I would think so. It doesn't say like another copy or whatever, another card of that name is in the grave or something. I think it just says in there, so it can actually just, I believe it'll be able to just negate anything in grave and negate like hand traps, stuff that gets sent to grave as cost. And if you just play generic hand traps yourself, you'll still be able to do it, you know what I mean? Like, if you were to Nibiru your opponent, your Nibiru gets cleared, it's in the graveyard, and your opponent tries to Nibiru you later in the game, you would be able to just negate the Nibiru. It's a negate. It does not negate and destroy, but still, you know what I mean? A negate's a negate. I think this isn't the worst, it's just a little bit specific. It seems like it's not going to negate too many things, combo-wise, but more so like generic metagame cards, like hand traps and stuff. So I think it's a fine disruption, but it's not an amazing disruption by any means necessary. It's a little bit specific on what you're going to be able to negate. And the third effect, if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, so you could special summon it, they could special summon it, as long as it's from their graveyard, you contribute 2 monsters as cost. 2 monsters to special summon this card from the grave. So again, this one's okay as well. I don't think it's insane. Theoretically, if you had one engraved, normal summoned another one to reborn 2, you could tribute those 2 to then special summon the second one. And then you'd have 2 2800 beaters. They're both monster negation. Oh, I guess, well, they're hard ones for turns. So, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's a decent card, but I don't think it's insane. Unless I'm missing something that's like already exists in the vampire or just zombie type in general, as far as support goes, that like makes this card way better. it's a little bit lackluster for me. The card wants to be normal summoned, not special summoned, which is tough. The disruption it has is a little bit focused. It's not an overarching negate. If it was just a monster negate, I'd be way more about this card, right? You just negate anything. That's so much better. And then the third effect is, yes, it puts it on the field, but you got to tribute 2 monsters to put this on the field. Like, that's as bad as tribute summoning this for 2 monsters just to get the first effect, right? So I think this card just feels kind of minus for the archetype, and I know the archetype already has some troubles with going minus, relative to 2020 standards, but I don't know. It's a cool card at the end of the day, and I don't know. We'll see if it can do anything. I mean, we haven't heard anything from vampires. We've heard of some stuff from, like, zombie decks actually doing some cool things, Eldritch and Eldritch Zombies, Eldritch Zombie World type decks, but we haven't seen anything vampire in a long time. So maybe this is just a hint that we're going to get more zombie support, or a vampire support. That would be really cool. But I think this card kind of misses the mark for me. I was hoping this would be the kind of boss monster that, like, Ballardrock is, like, easily puts itself on the field, is a very strong 1 or 2 disruptions, and is, like, recurring, just comes back and back and back. But it doesn't really do that the same way Ballardrock does. But luckily, you can still play Ballardrock in vampires. You just got to play a field spell, so that works. So that's it for this card. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, I made this video even though I know I have my deck profile going up in like an hour and a half on Virtual World. So hopefully this doesn't deter you too much from that. But just keep an eye out for that. But when news comes, you got to make the videos where you can. So let me know your thoughts down below on this card. It's an interesting one. I don't think it hits the mark, but like I said, let me know your thoughts on it. Do you think it's better than I do? Do you think it's even worse than I do? Put those comments down in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Peace.